Hello, Rethreading Lives podcast listeners. I am so excited today. We have such an amazing guest that you are going to learn so much from. Her name is Nicole Thomas. Nicole Thomas is the president of Baptist Medical Center Jacksonville. And this is the largest hospital in the Baptist system. And I have been following Nicole's career for years because in 2016, she became the first female and first African American in the Baptist healthcare system to become the president of a hospital. And she was named the president of Baptist Medical Center South. And I remember hearing about that in the news. I remember hearing her speak and just being so influenced by her and her story and you'll hear it when you listen to her. She is just calm and steady and kind and so smart and so intentional with how she spends her time in her life. And today we are going to talk with her about how she goes into complex systems like hospitals and she helps them grow and develop into financially and patient-centered and employee-centered, and everybody rises under Nicole's leadership. So today we're going to talk about how she does that. So get ready, y'all. This is a good one.
It's a joy to be here in your living room.
In my living room. I do have my shoes off. Okay. I want to know more about you. So what we talk about at Rethreaded is this is your potential to hold, and we're defining potential as the ability to hold it all, like hold the hard and the good and to hold it all with love. And we all have these threads in our lives that make up who we are, hard threads and really positive threads. And together they kind of create this structure that we can hold. So when life comes, we can hold it all and still act with love. And I feel like we get to know each other as we talk after meetings down the hospital hallways. Yeah. I feel like I've learned more about you there than anywhere else. But can you kind of paint us a picture of your threads? Like what was woven into you as a child, and
Sure.
Who believed in you? What were some of the hardships? What were some of the beauty?
Sure. Mm-hmm. So I'm from Houston, Texas. I don't know if I have an accent. I've been working on that so I can be, mainstream.
Gotcha.
But grew up there and was raised by my grandparents. Knew both my parents. My mom and dad were teenage parents. And my grandparents offered to send me to private school. And so who could pass up on that? So they let me stay with my grandparents. They went on to be married and divorced, and each went on to find their life partners for years and years. And that meant I had 3 sets of parents. So I like to say that I was high maintenance and I needed all of that direction and attention.
Oh my gosh.
And
so you were there was like a lot surrounding you. Very supported.
Absolutely. Okay. And it was always a village, right? Mm-hmm. And so my grandmother really opened the door. She wanted both my mom and dad to feel welcome at her home. Even when they married other people, it became one blended family. And even today, I'm the glue of the big blended family. And so I have 2 sisters, and they, of course, one for my mom, one for my dad, and they have kids. And so for my birthday, for example, all of them come to Aunt Nikki and Uncle Mike's house to help celebrate. And that's the way I was raised, that it was one giant connection. And we were going to operate as one unit, all in support of me, really, so that I could be the best person I could be.
Which is so good. What is your grandmother like?
Yeah, she is one strong woman, that's for sure. I would say that she was my first mentor, and she would tell you that it's okay to push as long as you know there is potential there and that they're going to be able to achieve it. because there's always a little bit of fear and trepidation when it's the first time, but she was the one pushing. And I'd often say that I'm probably bossy, like my first mentor, right? Just in control, decisive, and really making the decisions for the family. She literally is the matriarch at 89, even today.
So even when you're talking, I can see how you would how you learn from her. Like, one of the things that I love about you is your steadiness. Like, I know that you have led through very hard things.
Yes.
And steady. And so your grandmother modeled that for you.
She did. She did. Even through the bad times when I didn't even know they were bad, right? The loss of a loved one or a shortage of cash, that never came across. It was always the same. She was always the same, my grandfather, and they made sure that I had what I needed. And it probably helped to have two parents to help contribute, right, to helping make sure that I was well resourced.
So in the Rethreaded process, we define community as the people who help you, encourage you, and also hold you accountable to reach your potential.
Yeah.
Like, they're the ones that will say the hard truths. They're the ones that won't let you off the hook. When you said that, I was like, she's the one that pushed you.
Yeah.
She saw in you. What did do you know, has she ever said what she saw in you that was?
I don't know. I think she saw her dreams, really, and what could be. She had one son, my dad, and this was her opportunity to have a little girl go past all that she could have dreamed of accomplishing. And so she set me up to do just that. She made sure I attended a magnet program for high school. That's where I got exposed to healthcare. I attended the High School for Health Professions and learned then about the various careers in healthcare, and understood pretty quickly after I had my first job at a dental office that I was not going to be a clinician. As I was assisting the dentist, my saliva reflex, like the gag reflex, I'm like, this is not going to be for me. We're going to have two patients.
And that was just dental.
That's it. That's it. The suction tool to this day gives me chills. So it was that kind of exposure, right? She made sure that I had exposure to piano lessons and dance lessons, and all in an effort to build confidence. I participated every Wednesday night at a church girls club, if you will. It was called Girls in Action. And then I grew up to Acteens. And every Wednesday, there were other women mentors pouring in, really helping us build our faith while learning skills, public speaking skills, organizational skills, project management skills. So all of that got weaved in to my upbringing.
And I love that it was women pouring into you.
Absolutely.
It's beautiful.
It's why I am so intent on telling the story to as many women and girls as possible, because that's how I got here. Yes, lots of men who have helped open doors, no doubt about it. But there were also the women along the way who served as role models, who pushed and encouraged me and told me that I could do it. And also told me when I wasn't doing it right.
Which is good.
Yes,
because
that is somebody.
That is love, really.
Yes.
That is really love,
absolutely.
when someone can tell you in a way that ultimately encourages you that you're not doing this right. Yeah. So what stopped your grandmother from doing all of these things?
Yeah. So my grandmother was born in 1934. So segregation, the inability to continue her education. She started working right after high school, relocated from a small town called Navasota, Texas, and came to the big city, and we just started the work life and the grind, and had a son, got married, right? Like all the natural things, and life just happened. And she ended up as a insurance claims adjuster. We were just talking about this the other day. And she was saying that, often she had to deny claims for people who were having various procedures done. And me being on the other side of that now, right, as the hospital president, we're talking to the insurance companies all the time, right? Like, you should approve that for the patient. They need it. She's like, nope, I was the denier.
That is a full circle.
Right?
That's
got
funny.
a good laugh out of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she was born in the 1930s. So she grew up in segregation, then grew up in the civil rights movement. Does she ever talk about those experiences?
Not very much, actually. So I think she was on the periphery, not one of those that were on the front lines, but doing her part in making sure that there was equity in her home, right, with how she was able to help make decisions with her husband, and paving the way for my dad and ultimately me.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Thanks.
So, were your grandparents married?
Yes.
Like the whole time?
Yes.
Is your grandfather still alive?
No. He died when I was getting ready to graduate college. So he saw me almost there.
He would be so proud of you.
He would be.
What was he like?
He was the loving one. So my grandmother was the disciplinarian. My grandfather was the loving one. He cooked and took me to the store for candy and snacks and let me drive the car in his lap. And it was just a joyful experience and relationship with my grandfather.
I know. Well, your grandparents served many roles, but yeah, my grandparents were always like my special safe places, like so special.
It is. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. I will say that because I lived with them, they were more like parents, right? And so your safe space, my safe space, was actually with my mother.
It was like reversed.
It was reversed, right? And so that was the place where you got to go to the amusement park and stay up late and eat in the bed.
The equivalent of being the aunt.
Right.
That's why being an aunt is the greatest thing ever.
Exactly.
So your mom became your safe place.
Right.
More like, that's
right.
It's actually so cool still, though.
Yeah.
How it still was all provided for you.
It was.
Because kids need that. They need that safe space where the person, it's not about the rules, it's about enjoying each other's company.
That's exactly right. And when you have to follow the rules and when you don't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's great. I grew up admiring my mom. I thought she was the most beautiful woman. And she, too, has had a storied journey with getting her bachelor's degree late in life as a working professional, and showing us that it's never too late, that you can do anything. She has her own Mary Kay business. She works as a tax accountant, and also serves as the first lady of her church. So she's married to a pastor. My stepdad is Pastor Baker, and they lead a life of service and ministry. And it's just a joy to watch them and have them now serve as role models for me and my husband, Michael.
It's beautiful.
It really is.
Okay, I know. Where do we go next? Because there's so much. So what was the hardest thing about your childhood, and what was the best thing?
Yeah. I'll start with the best thing because that's easy to talk about. And I would say the best thing was just I came to believe that I could do anything.
That's so good.
When I was asked to be the guest speaker at our church for Youth Sunday, I never hesitated, right? It was always, yes, will you help me? I don't know how to do it, but we're going to figure this out. And so that, I think, was the best thing. Now that I look back, just the ability for me to raise my hand and say, I'll try it. and or give me the opportunity to do so. So I would say that's the best thing. The worst thing was probably feeling like I didn't know my parents as well because I didn't live with them.
Mm-hmm.
I knew my grandparents, but I saw my dad and my mom on the weekends or when they visited or picked me up or whatever. And I had siblings who, of course, lived with them and know them much better than I did. And I kind of got the best of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really get to see all the intricacies of the nuances that happen when you live with somebody 24/7. And so that's probably what I would say is the worst part, having to develop that relationship really as an adult. My mom and I are doing that even now, and I've lost my dad. He died in 2010.
2010. Okay.
Yeah, but adored him as well, and so I wish that I'd known them even better.
Yeah. So you went to this magnet school, got exposed.
Yeah.
And then where'd you go next? What happened?
Yeah, so I got a full scholarship to Dillard University, a historically Black college in New Orleans.
Oh, in New Orleans. Okay.
Yeah, and back then there were paper curriculum, right? You'd like flip through to figure this out.
Is that at my college? We dialed on the phone, and it was like put in the code of the class you want. Oh yeah.
Okay.
It was so stressful.
You're with us.
Yes.
Perfect. And so as I'm looking through the catalog, I find this curriculum for public health. And there's an emphasis in administration. And so they're business classes. So I'd take accounting and marketing. And there's also public health and epidemiology and the history of healthcare administration. And I'm thinking, this is the perfect marriage. This is what I want to do. I found it. And so
by looking in your college catalog.
Yeah. And I got confirmation. I was looking through the Ebony magazine. Do you remember Ebony magazine?
Uh-huh.
Well, they had this list of hot careers for the 2000s.
And you're like, hey, Ebony says it, I'm in.
And there was an article in there about health services managers. And it described it, long hours, the salary, you'd need your master's degree, all this stuff. So I tear it out and I write my grandmother a letter. I have it to this day. She kept it. And so as I was, cleaning out her drawers one day, I found it. Certified. I don't know how and why, but certified letter. I write her, I put it in there, like I found what I want to do. And she must have called me because I remember this conversation like it was yesterday. She's like, listen, you need to choose something that we've heard of. We don't know what this public health thing is. You need to be a nurse or a doctor or a pharmacist. Figure it out. And so
naturally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what to do? But I kept going. Mm-hmm. And, it's one of your first lessons as a young adult, right? Not everybody is going to agree and support, but it's what speaks to your heart. And, she would say today, good job.
I mean, we know how you would be. I mean, if the spit sucker was an issue, nursing is not your calling. Not your calling, Nicole.
Tell me about
I'm glad that was really clear.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's how it happened.
So how did you know, though, that I pulled a quote, something how you said, it combined my business brain and my healthcare heart.
Yeah.
What was your experience in business that you knew that you had a business brain?
Yeah, so I didn't really know I had a business brain. I knew I was organized. I was typically the leader of whatever, the club, the group, right? We're going to be in a leadership position. And so I just felt like that would be a calling. That's something that I naturally was attracted to. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe we'll just give it a whirl. And I actually did an internship and met a woman. Her name was Miss Peggy, who was the vice president of operations at Charity Hospital in New Orleans. And I watched her, shadowed her, and thought, okay, I can do that. Tell people what to do.
I love it.
Is that all I have to do?
Oh my gosh, I love it.
So,
how old were you then?
maybe 20.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, to be 20 again and just know that. I just got to tell them what to do.
That's all we got. So I knew that I'd need my master's degree. So I ended up going to University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And that was a big cultural shift. It was an awakening really for me. I like to describe it as at Dillard, I was one of the smartest kids. Well, when you get to graduate school, all of the kids are smart, right? Like they send them all to graduate school. And so you're in a group of smart kids and now you don't stand out. And so I learned what it was like to be chosen last for the group and to need a tutor and to struggle with this new information that we're learning and had never been exposed to. And so you're just going to have to get a little scrappy, right? You got to have grit to move through it. And that was a big learning experience at UNC.
What was the ratio of women and African-American women in your master's program?
Yeah, there were two of us.
Two of you.
And I think my class may have been 50. So not very many.
Two women.
Two African-American women. And there probably were.
Two African-American out of 50.
Right. There probably were maybe 10 women.
10 women out of 50, yeah. So it was, you were the minority.
Of the minority.
Of the minority. Eminem.
Yeah. The other African-American woman in my class was from Dartmouth, right? Like, we're talking about
Ivy
prestigious,
wow.
Really smart women, and we're still friends to this day.
I was going to ask, when you're, experiencing this,
yes,
I feel like that's an opportunity to find out what's inside you. Who was your community at that time? Who was encouraging you, and who helped you, encouraged you, and didn't let you off the hook?
Yeah. So at that time, we had mentors in graduate school. I was there on like a minority scholarship program, and so they connected you with a professor who could serve as your mentor, help you with like a after school work assignment, right? So I actually had somewhere to go, something to do, and this person to bounce things off. And so it really was him. He invited me to be with his family. He let me drive his stick shift car, and I didn't know how. He just gave it. He's like, here, you need a car. I'm like, okay, don't know what to do. Roommate, can you help me? So we figured it out, and it was that kind of community. I will tell you that every place I've been, as I've moved away from home, somehow that support system springs up, whether it's professors or new friends or coworkers or whatever the case may be, other students, it always surfaces itself. And you're right, there are people who can help support you. I met an MBA student who could tutor me in statistics, right? Like there was all these connects that really helped me get through graduate school.
And why do you think, because I think you can go two paths in your life when you are in a situation like that, to shut down and isolate and try to do it on your own, or be open and willing to have help around you.
Yeah.
Do you know where that came from, that you were willing to ask for help? It's awesome.
Yeah. I think it all, of course, goes back to the nature and nurture, right? And so asking for help had never failed me. So we
Amen.
may as well
keep going. This
keep
works.
going, right? Like somebody's gonna make this happen for me. And I really felt like I didn't have a choice, right? I didn't understand it, and I couldn't do it by myself. And I knew that there were people who'd gone ahead of me, and if they can do it, surely I can do it. Maybe with some help, but right, it's not impossible. I'm not, inventing something here.
That's good. All right. Yeah. I want to get to that. And then when did your husband come into this picture?
Much further down the road. So I finished with graduate school, and then I moved to Jacksonville. So I came to work for Mayo Clinic as a part of my administrative fellowship program. So as a newly minted master's in healthcare administration, newly minted MHA, back then you had a choice. If you didn't have work experience, which I did not, you could decide to go be a consultant and travel all over the country and tell people what to do, which sounds appealing.
Yes. One day I'm going to be a consultant.
Or you could do a residency or fellowship is what we called it at Mayo. And they had this 2-year program where they would teach you inpatient and outpatient operations, which is highly unusual. Typically, healthcare administrators grow up in one or the other. You don't usually learn both, but I did. And ultimately, that would make me a unique leader and highly attractive to others, as we'll come to talk about, I'm sure. But that's how I got to Jacksonville in 1996. Joined as the administrative fellow, and I stayed 9 years, and I met my husband here in Jacksonville at church.
What does he do?
He is an actor. He is retired from Amtrak, and one of the hard things in his life that has made him an incredibly grateful, generous person is the train derailment that he went through. And so he almost died and landed in a coma he was paralyzed and just had to fight back. And he recalls the first thing he heard when he woke up from his coma was that Jacksonville had been awarded the Jacksonville Jaguars. And so he always remembers it November 30th, 1991. Or maybe it's 93. We may have to check that one.
Okay. So he almost died in a car accident.
A train derailment.
A train derailment. I mean.
Yeah. So he was a conductor on Amtrak. And there was a flatbed truck stuck on a railroad track somewhere near Orlando, maybe Kissimmee. And the train didn't see it in time enough to stop. And the pictures are, you can just see the cars just laying on their sides. It was a pretty traumatic event.
What? So he's
Yeah.
Amtrak
Yeah.
train conductor.
Yeah. Turned actor.
Turned actor.
And always Jacksonville Jaguar fan.
So that's why the other night
his
you were
birth
like,
date.
we got to get to the game. I know.
Yes.
I know this is important. We
Yeah.
got to get to the game.
We got to get to the game. Yes.
So that is so interesting that you are you then this one and he's like the actor and the.
So what's so neat about this is he's the introvert.
Oh, he's the introvert.
I'm the extrovert, but he's the creative, and I'm the follow the rules. But over the last 21 years, we have learned to take on a little bit of each other. So he's taught me spontaneity and how to actually relax on vacation. Like, wait, you don't need a plan?
Here's my relaxing plan.
I don't have to wear a watch. We have a meeting. It's like, no. We're just going to let it go and see what happens. And we've just been able to do some really cool stuff that you wouldn't have been able to plan. When you walk into the comedy show and, there's the biggest comic ever playing and you couldn't have gotten tickets, right? So that's the kind of cool stuff that he helps bring to my life.
And how long have you been married?
since 2001. I know, 22 years. Yeah, it's been a long time.
What'd you do for your 20th anniversary?
I think it was COVID.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, look at that. We had to like do the laps.
Right, it was COVID. But we went to Washington, D.C., and we got to hang out and see the African American Museum, and that was really cool. And we went to some fancy steakhouse and stayed at the MGM, and it was a lot of fun. Got to visit with my little cousin who is in school there at Howard.
Oh, that's fun. That's cool.
It was great.
Okay. Now, this is what everything I'm like listening to is through the lens of like threads and rethreaded process and getting to see you in action at Baptist. And we talked about how my hunch is in your career, when we can look back on your career, and even probably now as we talk about your childhood and the leadership roles you had and the grit, that you're kind of sent into places to make them better. Like here is where they're starting, and they send in you to take the base and build it. And when I read your bio, that was over and over again. You go in there, build it, and now you get sent to somewhere else. And now
some would say that I'm never satisfied.
That's true. That could be true. That could be true. And now that I see it, can I talk about that? I'm on the board?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
Like, I can start to see now. That's why I asked you at the board meeting last time. I was like, how long have you been here, Nicole? Because I saw that like there was a certain point in history and stuff started to go up. Everything started to change, and I was like, I bet that's when Nicole came. I looked at it. I was like, that's when she came. I know it is.
It's so funny.
But true. So what I want to talk about you today is Baptist South, because that's when we first met.
Yes.
And oh my gosh, and healthcare, especially now that I'm on this board and I'm sitting there listening to stuff, the complexity of it, the complexity of leading and managing and improving while maintaining quality, while it's like us at Rethreaded, where we're like, how do we manage our mission? And we have to survive.
Right.
And your mission is kind of like also like our mission. Like we wish we didn't exist.
Right.
Essentially.
Yes.
We wish we didn't exist. So I would like to start with kind of like, do you have a theory of leadership that you like, you're about to, let's just go back to what year, 2016?
Uh-huh.
You're going to become the new president of Baptist South. First woman, first African-American, and you're going to start there. What are you bringing in? Like, what is your leadership philosophy as you're about to step into this role?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it was face forward pretty quickly, because if you remember, 2016 was a pretty divisive presidential election year.
Oh, was that the Trump Hillary
Clinton
year? Okay.
It was.
That was rough.
It was rough. And going into South, I knew that my team, the patients that I was taking care of, they were a microcosm of the country. And it felt to me like at least half of the country voted against a woman and were so happy to see President Obama be moving on, right? So didn't appreciate an African American and didn't want a woman president. So I represented both of those things and needed to decide pretty early on how I was going to address it, because I felt like leaving it unaddressed was also a statement. So the morning after the election, as disappointed as I must admit, I was disappointed. I called the group together, and
the group being your leadership?
My leadership team, and said to them, we have the opportunity, no matter what your political affiliation is or how you feel about today, we, inside the walls at Baptist South, have the opportunity to show the world what unity looks like. Because we have a common mission that we can agree upon. And we are going to work toward that mission and put the rest of it aside. And it made me feel like I did, like, clean the slate, right? Like, unity is going to be the foundation upon which we build whatever it is we're going to build. And then I set about really understanding, what do we do well? And just did a lot of talking and visiting with folks and delving into the data. And, many years later, I can look back now and say, I can describe what it was that I was doing, but at the time I didn't know what I was doing. But
So you didn't have like a leadership framework that you were applying. You were going in and kind of figuring it out. Your first, that was your first job as a CEO, right? Or
correct.
President?
That's right. It's president.
It is president. It's not a CEO.
Correct.
Okay.
So we have a system CEO, and then each entity has presidents. And we, of course, all ultimately roll to the health system CEO. So there's only one CEO for Baptist.
One CEO and the president of a hospital.
Correct.
Okay.
You got it.
All right.
So the framework is the same framework that all leaders use, right? Their goals, and you've got to figure out how you're going to move the needle to get to those goals, and what are the measurable outcomes and the milestones along the way. So all of that was in place. But as I think about the how, it started really with presence and showing up at the most important times, unimportant times. My goal was to show up enough on nights and weekends that they would stop asking me, what are you doing here? I'm here because you're here. We never close. We're a 24/7 operation. How else am I going to get to see you if I don't come? Like, okay. And so
what is showing up in that environment? What does you showing up look like?
It means popping in after church on Sunday to go visit a patient, to go visit a nursing unit, to call in to the house supervisor's office to ask, how are things going? So that's what it means, right? Something simple. It's not anything organized or planned. It's just an opportunity to say hello to folks and have them know that I'm thinking about them, even when it's not Monday through Friday. So presence, really important. And that came true almost immediately after taking the position. We were in hurricane season. It was September 2016, and Hurricane Matthew came through. And not too long after that, Hurricane Irma. So lots of opportunity, actually, for us to be together and housed in place at the hospital. It was the first time in our history that we evacuated our Beaches hospital. So Baptist Beaches patients came to Baptist South for shelter and care, to be out of the storm's way. And right, we're just so many first, but it was knowing that we had 300 lives responsible in that moment meant a lot to me. And so to be there with the team, sheltering in place and serving in the cafeteria and making sure that there was some place for the team to take showers, all important and all just an example of what leadership looks like when it's time to show up.
So going through that, a challenge together.
Absolutely. And that's where you build the bonds, right? You're going to test what's in you. And when you're under stress, the real you is going to show, whether it is giving light or, casting a shadow, you're going to find which leaders have the capability to do that under stress. And the goal is always to be able to shed light wherever you might be.
People say to me, you're the CEO of Rethreaded. You can do whatever you want. And it's like, yeah, you're right. I can do whatever I want. And my staff is watching everything I do. And everything I do gives permission.
That's right.
To the culture of Rethreaded.
It's so true.
And it's the opposite.
It is.
As the CEO, I feel more responsibility.
No doubt.
To be more present, to be more on. Not that I'm not organized. But I love my team that is. But there is, and I think that's maybe a false belief about leadership, is that the higher you get, the deeper your responsibility to your people are.
Oh my. One thing that rings true to me that I think about often is an organization is a reflection of its leader in every way. Yeah. And so you have to model what it is that you hope your organization will be. And so it means everything to me when folks come in and, for example, you were lost in the hospital the other day and somebody helped you.
Yes.
Means everything, right? And that is the kind of culture.
A perfusionist who's not even like, nowhere in his job description would that ever be.
Nope.
Help a lost person. He had no idea who I was.
Sure.
It could be anyone.
And that's exactly what we want. That's called other duties as assigned, by the way.
I love that line, actually. I really love that line.
Yeah, but I think about that often, and I think about how impactful words are and what that means, right? So as a leader, you have to be intentional about what you say and what you don't say. So the pressure is even greater. Yes, you have lots of latitude, but you better use it for good.
Because you'll lose your respect. Is it what I'm for? So credibility. Thank you.
Yeah.
So as you're going through these challenges together, what is your coaching of your teams to keep moving them towards unity?
Yeah, it's a really important thing. So as I mentioned, pressure is going to come out in a way, some good, some not good. And it's part of my leadership model. It's all P's. When there are times where you have to prune. And so not everybody is in the right seat on the bus, able to contribute at their highest level. And I love what you said earlier about it's love to redirect. And so I'm going to start saying pruning is loving, right?
Yeah.
Because maybe this is going to be the relief that this person needed. They couldn't make the decision or didn't have the courage to do so. And if you help free them up for the next opportunity, it's good for everybody. And then in comes someone that you've selected, right? Because oftentimes that's someone you inherited. And I can tell you, you start with an A when you are selected, right? And so
yes.
As the inherited, you have to continue earning and developing that relationship. And that too can work, absolutely can. But when it doesn't, when we aren't getting the results that we need, can't be afraid to prune. So I would add that. Presence, pruning.
Oh, pruning is so hard.
It is. We can come back to that.
Okay.
And the other P, I would say, to keep the team encouraged, I developed a reputation at South about partying. And so it was really important to me to celebrate the wins because the work that this team does is so hard. It's physically demanding. You're on your feet 10, 12 hours a day. It's physically demanding in the terms of having to push and pull and lift patients, right? I'm thinking of my grandmother. She's in the hospital actually as we're taping. And right there, lifting her up in the bed and lifting her, helping her get up from, it's physically demanding. And it's emotionally demanding because you deeply care about these people that you're with day in and day out. You're their family when the family's not there. And you become connected and you're going through this healing journey with them. And sometimes it ends well and sometimes it doesn't. And so that hurt you feel, that joy you feel. And so there's this roller coaster that you are engaged in every day as a caregiver. And so when we hit a patient satisfaction goal, or a team engagement goal, or a quality goal, or any goal. Right? They're all important. We're going to recognize it. When we finish our Joint Commission every 3-year big survey where we get these external regulators that come in to validate the work that we're doing, and we come through that with compliments, that's worthy of celebration. And so we found every opportunity to celebrate people. And that to me is like the most virtuous flywheel, right? You start and people want to be celebrated and recognized. And so they're going to do what it takes to do that. And we're going to keep celebrating and recognizing it. And
then people feel like they belong and they're appreciated. And
absolutely.
So do you have like concrete things you did? Like, how did you do that in your company? I mean,
yeah,
but both of my parents come from healthcare, and my impression of the work environment was always very bitter. I mean, like my parents always complained, and no one was, I mean, I don't know if they found that much joy in their job because all I heard was complaints. So I'm always amazed at how leaders can bring into healthcare joy, and
sure,
because it is a hard job.
It doesn't take me, I can tell you, example after example.
Yeah, I would love some
of how we do this. And the first thing that comes to mind, we're in the holiday season and we decided to have a holiday bash. So who does that at the hospital? We do. Take over the lobby. We're going to have Santa and Mrs. Claus there to take pictures. We're going to serve hot chocolate. We're going to have Christmas carols. We're going to have the Ancient City Brass Band playing. We're going to have gingerbread houses available for voting. So you can, get bragging rights. And we're going to have an ugly sweater contest. Yes. And we're going to do it day shift and night shift. And the pictures, the smiles, the thank yous that come from just the opportunity to have a break from what they're doing in care every day, whether it's the housekeeper or the security officer, right? Everybody has a role to play, and we want to encourage them and have them know that their leaders are there with them and saying thank you for the work that they're doing. It's pretty incredible.
How do you get that what are you training your leaders in to get it all the way up from the top to all the way down to, I mean, the hands-on in every department?
Yep.
I mean, how are you doing that?
So I started by just being direct. The way I treat you, I expect you to treat your team, and so on. The way you feel when you're in a meeting with me, you have to create it for your team. And so it's all intentional, right? I want you to feel connected and excited about the next meeting. You don't know what's going to happen, right? We're going to do it in a different place. We're going to have a guest speaker, right? Like there's always kind of a you don't know what's up Nicole's sleeve kind of thing that keeps people guessing. And that is what we want to make sure that folks take that and push it down as far as they can. So first I was direct and said it. I want you to do this. And then we read a book called The Power of Moments. And so every leader received the book, and we decided together what our moment was going to be for new team members. So we had a whole conversation about the importance of, how to make one feel connected so that we can retain our employees. It's such a big topic. It's such an important part of what we have to do in healthcare. And so the team decided that every new employee, we're going to take a selfie with the team and post it to our Facebook page. We have a private Facebook page. And so that served multiple fronts, right? So the new team member feels like, oh my goodness, this is so cool. And the whole health system sees the Jacksonville campus as friendly and welcoming. And oh, look what they're doing, right? And so it kind of helps make the connection that this culture is going to be one that is welcoming and all about creating joy and results. We're not just partying to party. This is about getting to the results, and that is the highest level of patient care.
What were some things that you had to work through at Baptist South, like that you came in and worked on and changed, and what did you do?
One of the things that I'm really proud that the team took the journey with me was around the belief that administration always said no. When I arrived, that's what I kept hearing. So as I was meeting with the leaders, I'd say to them, so tell me about where you'd like to see your department in the next year. What is it that you guys will be working on? No, you tell me what you want us to work on. Like, wait. I really value your expertise. You have the information that's going to be required to tell us what the priorities are and tell us. I'm happy to do that, but if you'll just point us in the right direction, right? We don't want to get too far afield, and we don't want to be told no, right? Like all this effort and then we can't do it. Like, wow. And that kept happening over and over and over because as a startup hospital, we were on a tight budget. There were boundaries that we had to work within. And so that had trickled in to the culture. Don't ask. We're just going to make do with what it is that we have. And we don't want to be told no. And so I went on a mission to find ways to say yes. And I hear often now, have you met Miss Thomas? She's going to find a way to say yes. You need to figure this out. And so I believe that folks have now understood, as a leader, it's our responsibility to find a way to say yes, as long as it's not illegal, right? Like if it's going to help us further our goals, help us grow, help improve the engagement of our team, help our patients, let's figure it out. Even if we can't do it now, let's put it on the list so we can get to it at some point if we feel like it's valuable. And so I'm really proud of the team turning that corner with me and raising their hands and saying, hey, we need X, Y, Z. And we've been able to perform really well. Over the 5 years I was there, we were able to improve every metric across quality, patient experience, team engagement is really, really fantastic. And finances.
It's just so we at Rethreaded, I mean, I'm thinking of a similar, I wasn't even there. I was on sabbatical, but my team's telling me, and they're modeling this for me. I have amazing leaders on at Rethreaded, but it was during the inflation, right? Mm-hmm. And there was like so much grumbling at Rethreaded and scare and fear and kind of almost resentment towards Rethreaded about what are you going to do, blah, blah, blah. And my leadership team sat down with everyone and listened. What is going on? Yeah. And our women were having to try, because of inflation, having to make choices. Do I eat or do I pay my bills?
Wow.
And then the team is like, oh, now we understand why. What yes can we give?
Yes.
We also don't have extra money because we're also in the middle of the inflation. So that out of that, we started a food bank at Rethreaded. We pulled in our 2 volunteers that have been with us since day one, and now they make homemade meals for us Mondays and Tuesdays with food from food banks. And it created this huge cultural shift at Rethreaded.
Beautiful.
It built trust. There's a community now because we're eating together. I mean, like all of it is, and it's because the leaders at Rethreaded listened instead of biting back and being defensive.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How do you not be defensive?
It's hard when you care so much, right? Mm-hmm. And you're working so hard to make mm-hmm. it right. But I would say to you that you have to know that this is not about you. Mm-hmm. That whatever the question is that is bringing up, these feelings of defensiveness, it's likely information that's missing, right? They don't have all the information, or they haven't been engaged in the decision. And so there's just more talking to do. And so we just have to find a place of common ground and figure out how we can get past where we are. And listening is always the first place to start. So
that's a good place
kudos to your team.
Oh, they're such good leaders. So is this something you learned in your leadership, or you've always bent towards that way? Like, where does this humility come from and patience to listen? I mean, I know there's leaders on here, including myself, who struggle in this area.
I often think about what has worked for me. Like, how did I feel when I was listened to or when I wasn't? When I was included or when I wasn't? When I received the handwritten note at home and when I didn't. And just trying to make sure that I can recreate that same sense for others. And so if that means me appearing calm in the meeting and going to my office and, kicking something, then that's what we do, as opposed to letting that show to the team, right? It literally is about encouraging them. And sometimes you do have to let them see the fire so that they too can get the sense that we've got to do something different. I need you to come along. But I tease them and say, hey, we're going to use a code word. If you see me getting too far afield, right? Pineapple. Something to, break it up so that we can, take a deep breath.
So you ask your team sometimes.
Absolutely.
To
help me.
Help
make sure that we don't get too far afield.
What I love, so this is one of the myths of leadership that I've been undoing in myself, is that as a leader, you have to have all the answers all the time.
Oh, my goodness.
And that has created so much blame and shame and in me.
Yeah.
And I think it has stolen my ability to lead sometimes because there's so much pressure on me. And that is that's not what leadership is.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's about choosing the people who can bring what you don't have, right? So you can have a team full of talent, full of diverse perspective, and frankly, people who aren't like you, right? we don't need two Nicoles. That's really overkill.
Yeah, you definitely don't need two Kristins.
We've got that covered. So I'm super grateful for that opportunity, and that is the pressure, right? Choosing who should be on the team, and determining when to prune, when to promote, and helping people get ready for the next thing. That's where I tend to feel the pressure, wanting to make sure that people are living up to their full potential and doing what I can do to help them get there. And that often means me stepping back. And that's hard when I've grown up as the doer. And in this role, I'm supposed to be the thinker. And so that's a switch. And so you really do have to get comfortable with letting people get to the goal the way they get to the goal. It may not be the way you get to the goal, but however they do it, as long as it happens, that's got to be okay. And that's really where I have the pressure. Not so much having all the answers, but choosing the right people and giving them the space to do what they need to do.
Yeah, because they might fail.
They might.
It's really not failure, though, right?
Nope.
Because they'll find, I mean, that's how people grow, right? Because they're
Absolutely.
given space to figure it out. And I mean, it sounds like in your life, you had leaders and mentors who gave you space.
Yes.
If
No
I look
doubt.
back on your career, how you developed, you developed the specialties, the specialty hospitals at Baptist. You were the leader in the formation of Baptist MD Anderson Cancer Center. So again,
Yes.
I'm also looking about how they know you and your skill set very well. How they send you in to build things. So what is your skill set? Like, what do you bring? And then what do you like to have around you?
Oh, you're very kind. Okay. Let's start with what I like to have around me. That one's easier. It's hard to figure out skills, right? But we'll come back to that. But what I love to have around me, what I've learned over the course of time, it's really important to have a sponsor who's that level ahead of you, who can be your protector, your voice in the room, if you will, that can put your name forward for the next thing. Nicole can do that. And that is what you see on that bio that you're reading. I've always had a sponsor at Baptist who believed that I could do it. And they gave me the opportunity to do so. And I'm really grateful for that. When I think about, over the last almost 13 years now, the leaders that I've had the opportunity to work with, it's really been joyful. So that's what I need around me, because that gets you to the next thing. And maybe I'm bored easily. I don't know. We were laughing about, maybe I'm never satisfied. I'm not sure. But there's the ambition, the drive to want to make a big impact, right? I want this to be the best place to work, the best place for care, the best community that we can be. And however I can contribute to that, that's what I want to do. So that's what I need around me. Skill sets, I would say, I'll go back to one that we said we were going to maybe talk about. My learning, both hospital operations and physician clinic operations, that turns out is pretty unique. And so I understand that those two entities need each other, and it's going to be important for us to figure out what are our shared goals that connect us.
That's the unity part.
It is. It's the unity part. And so that's really hard when there are often competing interests in healthcare. And so if the physician practice needs to make a margin, they're going to do what it takes to make that margin. And it could be pulling things out of the hospital. That reduces the hospital margin, right? And so how do we collaborate to make sure that as a network, we're offering what our patients need so that ultimately we have long-term sustainability and not fighting each other about who gets which piece of the pie.
And that's, if I'm thinking of the rethreaded process, it's the power of imagination, empathy, and courage.
Yeah.
To put those together. I mean, everyone's kind of got to lay down the ego,
right,
and come together and find out what works.
Absolutely.
And that takes a lot of creativity, I think.
I agree. And I love that you said empathy, because
yes.
that is, there's not enough, right? We aren't focused on it enough. And I heard a really great definition that just brought it home for me, that empathy is about not listening with my ears, but listening with your ears, seeing with your eyes, feeling with your heart. And so even if the issue isn't important to me, if it's important to you and I have to put myself in your place and feel what you feel, then I'm prompted to do something that maybe I would not have done. So as a leader, if that's what we're trying to do, is come up with this shared goal and we've got, competing priorities and the like, I've got to figure out how to put myself in their shoes, not even just their shoes, right? Because I could flop around in the shoes, but how do I see like they see? How do I hear and feel like they feel, so that I can use my perspective to get their perspective closer? And maybe we can come up with something that will work. And if both parties are exhibiting empathy, it feels like we have an even greater shot at coming up with something that is going to help us both. So really big part of what we talk about in making sure that people feel like they belong, because that's what's missing, right? Is they don't feel like there's empathy for their situation. And then once you've had that expression, then you've got to continue to create those experiences that confirm that the empathy is always going to be there. That this isn't a one and done, that this is about how we do business together forever, so that you continue to build the trust and you continue to move us towards something that we both want.
I think you should run for president.
Oh my goodness gracious. That is so much harder.
No, you're just applying the same principles. The 3 Ps, empathy. I'm voting for you. I'm going to start a Facebook movement.
Oh, you're so kind.
Nicole for...
Thank you.
Well,
but
after...
No, thank you.
After Donna.
That's who we need.
Yeah.
Let's put her first.
We'll put her first. Oh, you guys could be president and vice president. Whoever wants to be.
You're very kind.
I would vote for you.
Thank you.
What is a story that you want to share with listeners? Like someone who is looking at bringing change. I mean, we have amazing people that have been on the podcast that are listen. And I know that a majority of people want to do good, right?
Yeah.
They want to hold and they want to be with love. Do you have stories or lessons you can share about this and how you've done it?
Well,
I've asked you a lot of stories, but maybe this is your advice.
Well, I'm going to tell you my hard story.
Okay.
So, I told you I had 2 sisters, but I also had a little brother. And in spring of 2009, in the spring of 2009. He went missing. And my sister called and said, our brother's missing. Like, what do you mean he's missing? He's probably off with his friends, spring break. He'll call. She said, no, it's been 3 days. I said, okay. So ultimately, we found my little brother murdered in the trunk of his car. And that impact on us as individuals and then us as a family has totally transformed who we are. So I was 17 years older than my brother, and so he was my baby. And I remember my husband, Michael, trying to console me. I'm like, he's just a baby. He can't be gone. And I remember just wanting to figure out how to take his place, right? Like, just let me die instead of him. He has his whole life to live. And you don't understand it, and I will admit I still don't understand the why. But telling the story helps people know that you can go through hard things and still have love and joy, and it has inspired me to go harder at making memories, because I realize that's all you have. And so I'm the one who's always telling my sisters, we got to make a memory. So we're going to make a memory. For Christmas, they're coming, and she's bought us all pajamas, and we're going to, right? Like, and so it's just the little things, right? It doesn't have to be anything major, but that transformed our family into just this tight-knit group that is intentional about showing how much we love, laughing, and figuring out how to have the best time together when we're together, because you don't know when will be your last. And so you can go through hard things. You can get through it. Whatever you need, reach out for help. Talk to somebody about it. You're probably not by yourself. And figure out how you can continue to make a difference. Keep pursuing the things that bring you joy, that you're passionate about, and you can do it. Don't give up.